Welcome to another episode of Chain Ready. I'm excited today to break down one of the most exciting projects currently being developed on Aurora, and that is the Bastion Protocol. Bastion Protocol is a decentralized money market protocol that aims to be the liquidity hub of the NEAR protocol. With this lending protocol, users can supply assets and earn interest. You can put assets up for collateral. You can borrow assets in a decentralized manner, meaning that you are able to instantly get loans without having to apply like you typically would in traditional finance to a bank. You are also able to conduct leveraging of long positions, and you are also able to short assets by trading your borrowed growth assets immediately for stablecoins. So that's just some of the potential that Bastion Protocol brings to the DeFi world currently. If you're not familiar with NEAR and AURORA, I have some other previous videos that I will link to, and in those you can gain a deeper understanding of what makes both NEAR Protocol and AURORA unique. We're going to go ahead and assume that you already have a basic understanding of NEAR Protocol and AURORA, and we're going to move on to explain how the initial sources of liquidity were set up during VC and Lockdrop phases. As you may already be aware, Bastion Protocol had a large first seed round that was led by Tier 1 crypto venture capitalist Parify Capital. The funding saw participation by many other big venture capitalist firms, including Jane Street, Digital Currency Group, Crypto.com, and several other large VC firms. Bastion also had support from some of the major NEAR core founders and also prominent blockchain developers. So behind the scenes, at the start, Bastion was already well funded and had a great development team. Now, in addition to the two VC rounds of initial seed funding that Bastion was able to successfully pull off, they also did two separate Lockdrop phases. These Lockdrops were an opportunity for users to be able to deposit funds into the Bastion protocol, lock them for a specific period of time, and in return, users were rewarded with their native BSTN token. They had two separate Lockdrop phases. The first one, they raised $293 million, and on the second Lockdrop phase, they raised $115 million. So in total, they were able to raise just over $400 million worth of Lockdrop liquidity. So that's almost $500 million that this protocol was able to raise in order to have the necessary liquidity for them to operate. And up next, we are going to talk about the BSTN token, which is the native governance token for the Bastion protocol. It has a hard cap at 5 billion tokens, so it has quite a high volume of tokens. It has 30% set up for liquidity mining, 30% set up for the treasury, 25% set up for the team and advisors, with the remaining 15% allocated for the investors. The treasury is a liquidity reserve, insurance fund, and an ecosystem grant program, and will also be used to cover the DAO operational expenses. There's also single staking of the BSTN token available within the AURORA realm on Bastion. I'm sure many people are new to leveraging and borrowing in this type of space, so we're going to go over some of the commonly used terms. First, we have interest rates. You can have either positive or negative interest rates on an individual realm within Bastion. What that means is that, say you're in the staked NEAR realm, you can have a net APY that is either positive or negative, meaning you can either owe money and the amount that you have borrowed is gradually increasing, or you can actually receive money and get paid for borrowing, which is pretty incredible. So that in the case that you have a net positive APY, say you borrowed $1,000, that's your borrow balance. That borrow balance is slowly going to be taken away at the rate of your net positive APY. You have also an APY on each individual asset that you either borrow or supply. Your net APY is represented as your borrow asset subtracted from your collateral asset. The second term we're going to look at is loop or leverage, and this means to increase your borrowed position by using the borrowed assets as additional collateral. Collateral is the collective assets deposited that you borrow against. Your C ratio is the ratio between your collateral balance and your borrow balance. A C ratio of 80% means that you have borrowed 80% of your collateral balance. A liquidation event is any event that can cause your collateral to be liquidated. liquidated. This can happen anytime you get close to 100% C ratio. An example of something that could cause a liquidation event would be to deposit a stablecoin and then borrow NEAR. Now, if you start at 80%, but then the value of what you borrow increases drastically, your C ratio will increase and could potentially trigger a liquidation event. The next thing we're going to consider is long and shorting. Shorting is a strategy to borrow a token that is immediately swapped for a stablecoin in the hope that the borrowed token drops in value, and leverage longing is to borrow a stablecoin against your deposited growth coin collateral and looping in more of it as to increase your position in the asset that you are bullish on. Unwrapping means to undo all of the individual leveraged collateral transactions where you end up with only your original collateral balance only. The next thing we're going to consider is isolated realms versus a single cross-collateral pool. Bastion Protocol is a hub and spoke design that uses isolated realms in order to increase security against attacks. Lending protocols that utilize a single multi-asset pool for lending risk a single attack draining the entire total value locked of the protocol. By having isolated realms, Bastion is able to offer more assets without the risk of new assets exposing the protocol TVL to a single point of exploit or attack. Bastion uses USDC as a common currency in all realms to bypass the problem of users not being able to deposit in one realm and then borrow assets from another realm. Additionally, Bastion also offers a Stableswap function where users are able to swap collateralized USDT for collateralized USDC. Now, this Stableswap function only allows you to swap collateralized assets, C tokens, which are what you receive when you deposit into the collateral pools on Bastion. However, currently their Stableswap is down due to the saddle hack, but they have a huge liquidity of stablecoins from their phase 2 Lockdrop, and they have a unique formula for reducing slippage, so that could make them a major player in the Stableswap space on Aurora. Okay, now that we've got all of those technicalities covered and hopefully you have a good understanding of how Bastion Protocol functions, let's talk about some of the things that Bastion Protocol cannot do. A lot of people have an idea that they're going to be able to deposit, say, $1,000 worth of NEAR and then leverage that 10 times and walk away with $10,000 worth of NEAR. Because Bastion Protocol requires you to over-collateralize, you will not be able to ever take more out than you put in. So that means if you put in $1,000 as collateral, you will never be able to take out more than $800 in borrowed amount. You have to over-collateralize on Bastion. So you cannot put in $1,000 and walk away with $10,000 to then invest into another protocol. Another thing that you cannot do on Bastion is you cannot leverage long or short tokens that are not on a Bastion realm. This means that, say you wanted to short something like ADA or Matic, you would not be able to do that because those tokens are not on a Bastion realm. You can only leverage your long positions or short tokens that are contained within a Bastion realm. Okay, so now that we've covered what you are not able to do within the protocol, let's talk about some of the strategies that you can do. And again, these are general strategies. None of this is financial advice. This is meant to be educational in nature. I'm not suggesting that you utilize any of these strategies unless you fully understand all of the risks involved. Okay, the first strategy we're going to talk about is how to leverage a long position. You leverage a long position by depositing the growth coin that you're bullish on as collateral. You then borrow a stable coin and you use that stable coin to buy more of the growth coin and then repeat that process up to 10 times. When the price of the token that you're bullish on goes up, you unwrap all of your leverage tokens and you pay back the borrowed stablecoin balance, keeping the difference between entry and exit positions as profit. Okay, so let's now take a look at what that would mean in an example. Okay, so let's take a look at an example of how you would create a leverage long position. Let's say that you have $100 worth of NEAR, and at the time that you deposit it, NEAR is worth $10 per token. You take your 100 NEAR, you deposit it as collateral on Bastion. You are then able to borrow $80 worth of a stable coin. Okay, you take your $80 worth of the stable coin and you purchase $80 more worth of NEAR. You then deposit that NEAR as more collateral and repeat. You can repeat this up to 10 times, which would be 10x leveraging. Now, if you are successful in your long position and the value of NEAR increases over time, you would simply unwrap all of your leverage tokens and you would pay back the borrowed stablecoin balance, keeping the difference between your entry and exit positions as profit. Now, keep in mind that when you are depositing a growth coin and borrowing a stable coin, there is inherent risk in a liquidation event occurring. In this case, the risk would be if instead of the growth token increasing in price, the growth token declines in value, it would raise your C ratio and force you to either pay back some of your loan, deposit more collateral, or risk a liquidation event if the C ratio gets too close to 100%. So please keep in mind that anytime you are depositing one type of token as collateral and borrowing a different type of token, you risk the event of liquidating your original collateral. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is how to leverage a short position. A short position means that you believe the value of that asset is going to go down over time. The strategy here would be to borrow the growth coin you think is going to decline in value and immediately swap the borrowed tokens for a stable coin. As the value of the growth coin drops, you retain the full value in stable coins at the time that you borrowed. When you exchange the stable coin balance back to pay off your growth coin borrow, you only need to swap back, say, 50% in order to pay off your borrow balance, keeping the other 50% as profit. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take a look at that in another example. So let's say that you borrow 100 NEAR, and at the time that you borrow it, NEAR is worth $10 per token. You immediately take the $100 worth of NEAR and you swap that for $100 worth of a stable coin. So you now hold the full $100 value of NEAR when you first got into your short position. Now, over time, let's say that the value of NEAR drops by 50%. You would then take your $100 worth of stablecoin and you would use that to pay back the $50 worth of NEAR that you currently owe, pocketing the other $50 as profit. Now, of course, just like in the long position, there can be inherent risks with creating a short position. The biggest risk here is that instead of going down, the borrowed token value increases, and depending on what type of collateral that you deposited, if you deposited a stable coin and then use that as collateral to borrow your growth coin, the value of the growth coin increases. You would have to either A, pay back some of your loan, B, deposit more collateral until the price token goes down, or C, you risk a liquidation event. Now, if you had deposited the same token that you are borrowing, then you will not face a liquidation event as the value of those two things will track together. It is important to consider if you're going to do a leveraged short position that you need to consider what your collateral type is and what your borrowing type is. If you, for example, deposit stNEAR as collateral, which is the staked version of NEAR, that will always be worth more than NEAR. So by depositing stNEAR and borrowing NEAR, it's virtually impossible to face a liquidation event. If, however, you deposit a stable coin, let's say $100 worth of USDC, and then you borrow $100 worth of NEAR, and then the value of NEAR doubles, you would now have twice as much borrow amount as your collateral, and you would face a liquidation. So again, I just want to reiterate that these are simply educational strategies. I'm not recommending that anybody out there shorts or leverages any long positions without doing thorough research into the tokens that you're interested in shorting or longing first. This is just to provide an educational basis for you to understand how these types of systems work. This is not financial advice, and I do not recommend that anyone out there attempts to open a leverage long or short position without fully understanding all of the risks that are ahead of them. We'll now take a look at leveraging your staked NEAR. As I had just mentioned, depositing stNEAR and borrowing NEAR is one of the safest strategies that you can employ on Bastion because the value of staked NEAR appreciates in time in comparison to regular NEAR. So that means the value of staked NEAR is always going to be slightly higher than the value of regular NEAR. You can take advantage of this by leveraging your staked NEAR. So what you would do is go to Metapool and you would get your staked NEAR, which is automatically going to earn 10% APY. You would then deposit that stNEAR as collateral on Bastion and borrow 80% more NEAR. You deposit that NEAR back on Metapool, you get more staked NEAR, and you redeposit that as more additional collateral. You can then repeat this up to 10 times, which will increase your staked NEAR position by nearly 10 times over, thereby earning you greater rewards by holding more staked NEAR. Another strategy that you can use is to use a reserve bank to make purchases while keeping your collateral safe. So one thing you can do is you could say, I'm going to take stNEAR, say $1,000 worth of stNEAR, and I'm going to get my 10% APY from that just by staking the NEAR on Metapool. And then I'm also going to deposit that stNEAR onto Bastion as collateral. By doing that, you'll earn whatever supply APY that Bastion currently offers for staked NEAR, which I believe is around 8 or 10%. So you're now up to 18% APY. And what you can do is that, say there's a play that comes up and you would like to purchase a token that you think is going to moon in the next, say, week or so. So you can get 80% of that $1,000 deposited as NEAR. You take that NEAR out, you swap it for whatever token you're bullish on, and say the value of that token doubles, you would sell half of that token, pay off your borrow balance on Bastion, and you now still have all of your collateral, and you have 50% of what you bought that you were bullish on if the price doubled. So basically, it's a way to have assets that are earning up to 18% APY, and then at the same time borrow against those assets to make plays that are going to also be profitable. And the final thing that we'll talk about that you can do is simply earn APY by supplying collateral. So by depositing collateral and not taking out a borrow balance, you will effectively earn the supply APY for that token. In the example of, say, stNEAR, you'll earn the 10% APY from Metapool in addition to the borrow balance APY from Bastion. Now, also, there are many other different assets that you can deposit as collateral, such as Ethereum, Bitcoin, Aurora, etc. So USDC, you can deposit stablecoins. All of these give you a supply APY. So this would be the simplest and lowest risk way to earn APY is just by simply supplying collateral on Bastion. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys understand some of the potential rewards as well as some of the potential risks in using a borrowing and lending platform like Bastion Protocol. If you appreciate this content, give us a like and subscribe. And also, if you have other topics that you would like to learn about in the future, please drop a comment below letting me know what other topics you guys are interested in. Specifically, if it's on the NEAR and AURORA ecosystem, then I will definitely try to get it covered.